Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk, your home for all your betting tips and analysis, not only for boxing, but for different sports such as football, horse racing, basketball, and a multitude of events. So, yeah, please check out the guys at sharpbetting.co.uk down below. Myself and Danny here just reacting to what we've just seen from Kazakhstan as the middleweight king JANIBEK ALIMKHANULY has just retained his WBO and IBF world middleweight titles against the game and valiant French challenger uh, ANAUEL NGAMISSENGUE in 5 rounds with a big stoppage. So yeah, moving on to big unification fights maybe or big fights in the future. So yeah, Danny, I hope you're well. First of all, let's jump straight into it. What did you think of that performance from Janabek? And just how did it go compared to how you envisaged it going before the fight?
Yeah, very good performance. I thought very good to watch. Certainly when he's staying on the inside while still defensively responsible and letting the shots go. Janibek is pretty special to watch. How I thought it would go, I did predict he would get the stoppage. I thought it would maybe come a few rounds later than it did, just because he does like to take his time, play with his food. Some critics have said even the fight before Mikhailovic was a bit like Ngamissenge tonight, out in his feet at one point, and I remember Janovic just dancing around him and jabbing for a few rounds. So I did think there was the potential that it could go late, but it didn't. That finish, I mean, you hear a lot of hyperbole in boxing, but he genuinely nearly did take that fella's head off his shoulders. I mean, how he beat the count and was willing to carry on was remarkable. Thankfully, the referee stopped him because I don't think he knew what day it was. But a game effort from him. He can come again. People will definitely be keen to watch him fight again. He really did come to win and give it a really good go. But Janibek far too good for him. Levels above, and I think levels above anyone else at middleweight. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't disagree. In terms of the outcome, it went as we expected. But credit to Ngamissenge. He fought so valiantly for people that wouldn't have known much about him. Like myself, wouldn't have known that much about him coming into this. But such a valiant effort. He definitely didn't come to kind of make up the numbers. He came, stood in the pocket, had a right go, showed a serious chin, and as you said, I don't know how he beat that count to get up. It was a great call by the referee. It really was. Saving from further punishment. But, he definitely earned a lot of new fans there tonight with that performance. And credit to Janabek, really impressive performance in front of his hometown crowd. So, yeah, it's a great performance and victory for Janabek tonight. Retains his titles. And we were just speaking earlier. It's the story of his kind of career at the minute. He needs to get big fights to justify the reputation and the talent. So, yeah, your thoughts on kind of Janibek and the potential unifications in the middleweight division with the likes of a Lara or the likes of a Carlos Adames. How do you see it going? Or even bigger fights up at 168 if he was to move up.
Firstly, just no more of these. As game as Ngama Senge was, he got no business being in the ring with Janibek in terms of a competitive fight. No more of these. No more Mikhailovic's fucking Danny Dignam. Remember he fought back in the day. It's got to be either unifications against Adames, Erislandy Lara, or what I would prefer is just move up to super middleweight. He was hospitalized at one point trying to make middleweight. So the bigger fights are super middle. Obviously, he won't get a world title shot. You wouldn't have thought immediately. All the belts with Canelo and his roadmap for the next couple of years seems mapped out. But he's with Top Rank. Fight Jaime Munguia, fight Christian and Billy. They'll probably not be in a big rush to fight him, but it gets you in a good position if you can get those fights made. Let's be up. That's what I would prefer, mate. To be honest.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. The big fights are. I would first of all definitely favour him in unifications against the likes of Alara or Adames. I just think he's operating at a level above skill wise. Middleweight not the strongest division it's been. From past glory years. So it would be good to see him unified just to kind of get that credit. But the big fights are up at 168. And just I hope he doesn't turn out like his fellow countryman, Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin for so long didn't get those big fights to kind of really cement his legacy that his talent warranted. So yeah, I hope he can get the fights that he deserves and he warrants. Just a quick one to kind of wrap up on this one. He said it himself, and the commentators alluded to it tonight. He has dreams of fighting Canelo. He has dreams of fighting David Benavidez. Very curious to get your thoughts on how you think those two fights would go.
David Benavidez and Canelo. You know what? Am I going to say this? I think at 168 against Canelo, if that was to happen in a year's time, and Janibek has a fight at 168, I think I'd have fancy him to beat him. I think stylistically, he's a tough fight for Canelo. David Benavidez is a tricky one to imagine because obviously he's campaigning up at light heavy, and I think that would maybe be a bridge too far for Janibek. Saying that he's a much better boxer than Benavidez. Oh, at light heavy, I'd fancy Benavidez to beat him, but if Benavidez was down at 168 and the effect that weight cut would have, I think that could maybe sway things in Janibek's favour. But I think they're both winnable fights. I don't think there's anyone at 168 I would confidently pick to beat him, to be honest. I think the only fighter, like within a couple of weights of him, I'd pick two fighters to beat him would be Bivol and Beterbiev at light heavyweight. But aside from that, I think he's the bollocks, like, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree, to be honest with you again. I was just thinking that a Canelo and Janibek fight is absolutely fascinating. It really is, and especially with Canelo at this stage of his career. He is past his best. He's still absolutely world class, elite
Of
fighter,
course.
but I think Janibek, the freshness, the speed, the power, the kind of versatility that he can show, I think he give Canelo an awful lot of problems and an awful lot of trouble in that one. So I probably would pick him to beat Canelo as well. Benavidez, as you said, might be a bit too far at 175, but if he was, I don't think Benavidez is making 168 again, to be honest with you. So I think that'll be out the window. But yeah, as I say, I just hope Janibek gets the big fights. I really do, as you alluded to earlier. There cannot be this level of opposition, for that much longer. Decent fighters, but nowhere near kind of the level that he needs to be sharing the ring with. So, yeah, hopefully we get to see those big fights in the future, whether it be unifications or super fights at 168. So, yeah, that was just our reaction, myself and Danny, to what we've just seen from Kazakhstan, as Janibek Alimkhanully has retained his WBO and IBF world middleweight titles with a big fifth round stoppage against ANAUEL NGAMISSENGUE. Yeah, to kind of remain undefeated, keep that kind of reputation intact, and move on to bigger, hopefully unification fights or big fights up a division. So let us know what you think. What did you make of that performance from Janibek? Were you impressed? Let us know. And of course, how do you think he'll get on against the fellow champions at 160 or beyond? So yeah, let us know. Get involved. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all social media, and check out the lads at sharpbetting.co.uk down below. Danny, it was a pleasure, and take care.
Cheers, mate.